The Psychic Viewpoint is proud to have Maureen and Mary Gasparo with us tonight. And with that, I would like to present Maureen Holleran and her guest, Mary Gasparo.
God, I feel like I've just won an award. Hi, Mary. Hi,
Hello,
Mary.
Maureen.
Don't you feel so special? I mean, what an intro for both of us.
I know. I was looking under my feet to see if there's a red carpet that I missed.
I know. It feels so nice. I have a crown on. Mary, thank you for joining us. It's an evening time for you guys, yes. And I am so excited because you're a delight. You're a delight to interview, and I do know you, of course. But I tonight we're going to talk about. Well, you have a profound bond to our animal friends. What would you call it? You call them your fur. What do you call them?
I call them my fur kids.
Fur kids. Do they ever grow up?
No, I treat them like babies all the time. I spoil them.
Well, Mary, can you give a little bit of a background on how you got, or to where you're at right now? I mean, I know that we're talking. People are going to be listening, and everybody has a strong sense to their animals. Sometimes more so than others. Sometimes everybody, or sometimes downright don't like them. I don't know. But when did you know that your bond was like transcended beyond most people?
In other words, when was it more than just a fascination with animals?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I have to say, realistically, it probably occurred to me about 15 years ago when I was visiting a pet shop. And I've told this story a few times to some of my friends that I went in to buy aquarium food. We had aquariums, and I ended up walking out with a cockatiel. While I was any animal person, okay, they will go out of their way to go to a pet shop or visit a rescue, whatever, just to go see the cute puppies and the kittens and the bunnies. And of course, I was strolling the store and I was looking at all the fish and the birds. I was trying to stay away from the kittens. And as I was looking at these parakeets, I heard this little, "Look at me." Sounded like a little girl. So I turned around, thinking there was a little girl behind me, and there was nobody. So I go back again and I hear it again, and I'm thinking, okay, there's something coming through the loudspeakers. And sure enough, they didn't even have any music playing, but I turn around and look, and I'm eye to eye with this beautiful yellow cockatiel. And it occurred to me, she's talking to me. And I'm looking around because I didn't want anybody to notice that I'm kind of like doing this thing with this bird. Needless to say, I did get the fish food, and I also came home with her. We still have her. My daughter has her. Her name is Daffy, and she's priceless. And I guess from that moment on, once I realized I'm really talking to this bird, other things just started to seem to talk to me, like my cat. I swear I heard my cat say, "Would you get another food? I can't take this." I didn't like this, or "You're late coming home." And, I'm a firm believer, the more you open up, the more you experience.
Yes, why do you feel that the animals can so easily communicate with them? I mean, everybody can, right? Do you feel that, or?
Well, I think if you put yourself in the right place, and once you stop denying it and accepting it and realizing there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, as a child, I look back, and I was always the favorite with whatever dog we had. Ironically, I grew up with all dogs, and now I have all cats. After we got married, we got our first cat, and then another one came along, and here I am with 5. But I think it's just, you think, well, she just likes animals. But there were many situations that I look back now and thought, if I only knew then what I would know now, I'd be so much more advanced with animals than what I am. But as far as communicating with animals, animals, they don't have any expectations from you other than to feed them, take care of all their needs, and to love them. And with people, there's so many walls up to try and, have a conversation with somebody. They're always suspecting something, you're up to something. Cats, dogs, whatever animal you're dealing with, they just love you for you. So it's a lot easier to try and communicate with a being that just takes you for face value versus people.
And it doesn't matter what kind of car you have or how much money you have, as long as you can feed them. That's true.
Oh, exactly. And especially with cats, doesn't matter what time of the day or night when they want their neck scratched. As long as you scratch your neck, they'll love you.
Those are like I'm not saying this to be sarcastic, but the simpler things are the meaningful things that we come into the world without knowing until we're conditioned about things that we want, expect out of a partner or family, whatever. But the animals, it is amazing. It's amazing because even the animals that particularly don't like each other, I've been noticing this I don't watch TV, but like whatever I'm reading on the internet. There's been so many stories, it seems like the past year and a half, about certain animals that normally they would eat each other up alive, that one will find, have you noticed that one will find one in
Yes.
harm's way? Isn't that amazing that's going on right now?
Oh, absolutely. And if you think, I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm glad you brought that up. You look at people and they're standing outside, they're in a restaurant, and what are they doing? And I'm just as guilty as the next guy is. I'm texting on my cell phone. You're listening to your iPad. You have all the, I'm home and I'm watching, cable television, or I'm making juice with my new juicer. Animals don't have this stuff. They don't have all that stuff to get in their way. They just live a natural life. And that's what makes them so special. But getting back to what you were just saying, is I saw an article where they were talking about there was a fire, in the woods, and they found this doe, and they found a bobcat kitten snuggling together. They were able to get into somebody's house, and they were snuggling together in a closet.
Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. Really, that's just been going. I mean, it's amazing. They're getting. You know what? It's almost like the timing. It's like I don't know. It's been like a year and a half or 2 years. I've been hearing little bits like that. That's a good example right there. Now, what are the odds? Usually, it's already by nature that they would want to eat. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. But there's something going on, and they do. We you have been saying, they have a lot to teach us, and it's like it's really about our times are changing too. That we need to get along and not want to eat each other up, basically, and
right.
and be together if it's something. But that's lovely. That's so lovely.
Yeah. Even if you think about it with humans versus animals, we've all seen that picture on Facebook where you have a tiger, a female tiger, and she had lost her cubs. I guess they died in when they were born. I don't know what the story was, but it's like a zoo type situation. And then she got so depressed because she lost them that they actually took piglets and they put little tiger outfits on them. And she nursed them. She never knew she was nursing piglets. I mean, eventually, I'm sure she would have, it would have dawned on her that they weren't the right smell. I mean, how many times do you see they take kittens and they put them with a female dog? I've seen rabbits nurse off of a dog. I mean, there's all these things. They don't have that prejudice.
No.
It's just they just kind of take over. Whereas take two little kids in a playground, you have different nationalities. They're playing. They're not caring about who they are, what they are.
Right.
When they get older, they start hearing things. They hear things at home, and then all of a sudden, the hatred builds up. So, animals can get along in the strangest situations.
Yeah, that is very true. And I guess when they're. Well, I just remember The Lion King. I'm sorry, The Lion King. And I remember the circle of food. What it was called? The circle of life. However, they're all supposed to eat each other. You know what I'm talking about? But it just seems like to me, like what you're. It just seems more than ever, though. They're not like that story you just said. And there's been other stories like you saw. There was this one animal that rescued. It was some wild animal that was very gently rescuing some other animal that usually it would eat.
Right.
There was something going on. Instead of eating it, it was caring for it. It's just another story I read, but it's interesting because I know we're all circle of food, but there's a name for it. But I do feel that there's almost like it's almost like they're all gathering a collective, like the collective consciousness. A lot of them are gathering around. and maybe go, enough is enough. I love the dolphins, for instance, and I always think there's something to them, and of course every bit of animals. But I don't know. I wanted to ask you, because you have a great background, and I'm going to just change the subject a bit. But your background also, because you deal with some paranormal. We're not going to go into that so much. However, do you think, because animal spirits, why do you think some may stay behind or not? I mean, I know that first book I read to my daughter was All Dogs Go to Heaven. Do you remember that book? It was a really great book. All Dogs Go to Heaven. It was one of those books. I don't know.
I think I may have caught the movie, because I think there was a movie. I'm the kind of person, if there's a movie about a book, I'll watch the movie first. I'm lazy.
Well, what do you think about that? I mean, what is your understanding, or how do you feel about that? The animal spirits staying behind.
Well, I get this whole theory on animals and having certain heart animals. I think if you're lucky enough to be part of the animal world, and I say you become part of the animal world, they've accepted you, that's a gift right there, okay? And I'm lucky because I've had many in my lifetime, but you always seem to have one in particular that you favor. Now, I have 5 cats right now, and I love them all. You've been here, you've been at my house, you see how I baby all over them.
Yeah.
They're not animals here, they're part of my family, but I have one in particular that I call my heart animal. And she's with me all the time. And if she could go to work with me, and I've actually brought her to work after she had some dental surgery because I wouldn't leave her at home. But I do believe, and you may think I'm crazy, but that's your opinion, because this is going to be mine, is I really feel that certain animals travel with you throughout your different lives from past lives. I'll give you an example is, since you brought up the Shanley, and after the show, not during the show, but everybody out there listening, when you get a chance, go to YouTube and Google the Shanley ghost cat. And I know, Maureen, you've seen it. Most of the people that know me have seen it, because I was so excited when I saw this. There was an investigative team there that had a camera up on the 3rd floor facing down the hallway. And it's probably one of the best videos I've ever seen of an animal spirit. And this cat comes walking out of one room and walks into another, just like cats do. The tail, like, the tip of the tail does that little kinky thing on the end, and just doing its thing. And you knew definitely that it was a spirit cat because you could see through it. And everybody's been looking at this video trying to pull it apart to say it's a hoax, and it's not. It's an actual spirit cat walking. And we later found out, or actually Sal did, the owner of the Shanley, is through many, many painstaking hours of EVP sessions, that we found out that cat belonged to a spirit of a woman who used to live there named Claire. Now, Patty's familiar with Claire. And it has come out that cat, that's my cat. Who are you? Claire. So if Claire comes and goes out of the Shanley, wow, and she's one of the popular spirits that we all talk to, why wouldn't her cat stay with her if that was her cat?
Her companion, that's absolutely true.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know that was, I didn't know all that part of that. I guess you left me out of that part of the story, Claire.
I like to keep some things secret.
Apparently. I always like to, I don't know, through the course of my long life now, I remember there was somebody used to say, there's a ghost kitty. It's funny. It's like it's a trademark name, Ghost Kitty, Ghost Cat. And, but that makes a lot of sense. I don't think you're crazy. I think you're crazy about other things, but no, that makes perfectly good sense to me. But not only that, don't you think maybe some animals may have a connection to a certain home that they were at for forever? And maybe, like I said, I don't know. I'm not saying, I don't believe in anything, but, I just feel that, or maybe they're protectors. I know, we can go into a lot of the animals. I mean, even the, American Indians, Native American Indians. I mean, we all, about our guide, our totem animals and all that. But do you have one of those, Mary?
We all do.
Yeah, I mean, have you experienced, if you met, had an experience of interaction with yours?
Yes, I have, and it's kind of a sad and cool story at the same time. But, getting back to animal totems, it is said that we have 9 animal animal guides throughout our lifetime, and each one of them come up differently during different situations of need. I'm not saying that they're not there all the time, but let's just say, for example, you're having a struggle, and you may need to pull forth like the owl to come forward. With mine, one of the first animals that I remember somebody telling that I had was an elk, that an elk is very strong and you're a very strong person, and that, you can fight your way through things, when things look down, the strength of the elk comes forward. And it's funny because when I had that reading done, I was going through some trying times, and I'm thinking, I had a reading about 4 or 5 years ago where another person told me, you have a turtle also. A turtle's there.
Right.
And, I'm not the fastest person out there. I've always considered myself slow and steady, and I always get the job done. And part of the turtle symbolism is the fact that you have determination and persistence. So you know what? I'm not sitting here saying, oh boy, I got to be a turtle and slow. No.
No.
I like the fact that I'm slow. I take it easy, but I get it done, and I try and get it done right. But most recently, and this is probably, I'll say within the last 3 or 4 years, when I finally started looking at these things for myself. And one of the things that they tell you is how to find your animal guide. And if there's one particular animal that you're close to, or there's something that you're drawn to, or for example, let's just say it's your birthday, and you get 20 cards in the mail, and 18 out of the 20 cards has a picture of a hummingbird on it, okay, or a butterfly. Yeah. Right. They're indicators. It's like you look and you see a poster that has a butterfly on it. Well, with me, I had noticed that there was this hawk flying around my house constantly. Every time I go out, I would see this red hawk. And I'm like, And I remember saying to my husband, don't put BJ outside. There's a hawk, and I'm afraid the hawk's going to swoop down and pick her up, because a big hawk will go after a cat. They'll go after rabbits. They'll go after when they're hungry. But he never saw this hawk. It was like always me, like I was making it up. And one night he was sitting outside, and he comes in and he says, you got to come outside. We have a problem. And when I went outside, he said this huge bird took this robin's nest and tossed the 2 baby robins out on the ground. And I'm like, well, where did that become my problem? Well, he says, you're good with stuff like that. So I took the 2 birds. The one was already gone, just from the fall. And they were about maybe a day or 2 old. And I ended up nursing this like 1 to 2 day old robin into a full bird to, I would go outside. My neighbors, if they didn't think I was nuts before, I would go outside and I would say, birdie bird, and I'd put my arm out, and you hear this robin squawk from the background, come out of like 2 houses away in a tree and come and land on my shoulder. Eventually, he found his own kind. I had him in the house forever. I even took him to work to feed him, because birds like to eat like every 2 hours. But eventually, he found his own kind, and he flew away. And he comes back. This is the 3rd or 4th year. I don't know how much longer I'll see them, because they don't live real long. But he comes back and forth. But getting back to this hawk, I started after that. I would go outside, and when I would put seed in the bird feeder, this hawk would fly down and sit on top of the pole that the feeder was on. I'm like 4 inches from this hawk. And my husband one day saw it, and he's banging, get in the house, it's going to eat you up, right? It's going to peck at you. And something came over me that I felt a calmness around this bird. And we were looking at each other eye to eye. And now, every time I go out, there's a hawk out there. Whether it's the same hawk, I really should look up and see how long they live. But getting backwards again to the little bird, I was wondering whether or not that hawk purposely knocked those robins out of that nest. Seriously, if it was hungry, it would have ate it. But right. It purposely just tore the nest apart to knock it out. Was it testing me to see if I was worthy to become part of that hawk's life?
I find that very interesting. I don't find I could see something like that being the case, just because of what I've experienced, and especially with you say certain time periods of certain people, especially in the bird things. interest stuff about birds and what my daughter had gone through. I mean, it went on and on forever with this certain bird. I mean, birds hitting her window, and I mean, constantly. But it's interesting you bring up the birds, and but no, I do feel that doesn't seem odd to me, because that seems like it's very plausible. I get what you're talking about. Yeah. I could see that. But the birds, a hawk is a really strong bird. And, you're talking about certain time periods in people's lives. Like, for instance, I would see, God, one time, it'd be like a whole year, possums. Every time I got in the car. Every time I got, and it's like, there's possums, wherever I live. But it's not like ongoing. Like, wherever I was, there it was. There's another one. There's another one. It went on for months and months. And then suddenly I haven't seen them around, for a long time. And there was something about possum energy or medicine, whatever. And I found out some really weird facts about them, but it's true. It's like there are certain times I'd see lizards. Last summer, was it lizards? There's no lizards around here. I would see lizards suddenly. I paid attention, there's lizards. What the heck? And so, there's something to be said about
that. May be one of your animal guides.
Exactly.
That you've needed at different times. Exactly. But getting back to this hawk, now you know me pretty well, and you've known me for a few years now, and you've seen the transformation of all the changes that I've gone through. Mm-hmm. And part of the hawk meaning is take the lead when the time is right. And right around that time is when I decided, you know what, I am going to take the lead and be in control of my own destination. And I just kind of started branching out into my own thing. So
do you see the hawk much anymore?
Oh, I see the hawk all the time.
So it's still
as a matter of fact, and here's a little bit stranger story to the hawk. Shortly after I started, I won't say talking to the hawk, because I don't usually exchange words with the hawk. I was always afraid to start talking because I might spook it. I talked to it differently. And there was a friend of mine whose dog was dying. And I knew it didn't have long to go. And they were so upset about losing this dog. And the one day that I went out there to put the feed in, and the hawk came. And I looked at her, and I remember thinking to her, these people need you. Go up there and protect them. I'm okay. Just keep an eye. When the dog needed to cross over, I wanted to make sure that everything went smoothly. Well, I didn't see the dog. I didn't see the hawk for about 4 or 5 days. I mean, nothing at all. And I get a message from these people. I never told them anything about the hawk. I don't usually talk the hawk story to a lot of people. And they said, the dog was near its last breath and, blah, blah, blah. Well, the dog unfortunately passed away. And they said, but the strangest thing is when we took her to the vets to have her cremated, we couldn't get rid of this hawk. It was flying around our car.
Interesting.
And for about a week after, every time they went out, there was this red hawk. Well, I guess it was within 2 weeks she came back. But I thought, wow, this is really powerful, to the point that I'm able to talk to her, from thought to thought. So no, I don't know. I don't question the hires to be. That's for sure.
No, absolutely, because especially these, I think I've told you, I don't have to talk about it now, but my daughter went through the bird things after my daughter doesn't, she's scientific, everything's about science. It was incredible stuff, and stuff, it was just off the wall, literally, but there was something to it, and suddenly it stopped, and it's like it was no longer necessary. And so I looked up some information about, instead of being scared, because there was some pretty intense stuff that went on. But the thing of it is, it's interesting. It's like, I don't go around thinking, there's a lot of pet psychics, for instance, out there, right? I don't know what you feel about that, but I myself, I don't know what I feel about that. However, I want to ask you this, though. One of your pet peeves, I know that, and I like this because you've called me this before, is, what is it, Mary? What do you call? What is it? You're one of your really the bad name they call your friends and pals, dumb animals, right?
Dumb animals. Oh,
yeah.
You know what? If I had a baseball bat in my hand, when people say dumb animals, animals have been here for like forever, and they've survived so much. Nobody tells them. Everything gets passed down through instinct. And one of the stories that I love to tell, and it's at the conclusion of the book, and it talks about these two dogs that are stranded over there when Japan had the tsunami, and one was hurt and the other was fine, and that one dog never left the other dog's side. They were buddies. They were strays, and they kind of hung out together. So for days, they lay in this pile of rubble that nobody could get to. And finally, I guess they made a clear path, and they were able to get rescued. And the dog that was in trouble, they did save it. It was fine. But the instinct of the one dog to the other, that dog was healthy. It could have left it, but it didn't.
That's
okay?
right.
I mean, they say, oh, don't worry about it, it's just a dumb animal. No, it's not dumb. They have feelings, and that shows you the camaraderie that they have between each other.
The loyalty.
And that's a lot.
It's more than what we've seen in people a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Loyalty, absolutely. And that's integrity, too.
Right.
That's true.
One of the things I always like to bring up, and I believe you spoke to him before, I think you did, because you had asked for his information, is Jim Birkeland. And I don't know if everybody out there knows who he is, but he's known as the man who predicts earthquakes.
Yeah, he's in California. He's the one that did the 1980, that game, 1986 big earthquake, and they shun big Stillworth Stadium. What game was it? Yeah, I had him on as a guest too. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I remember because I had interviewed him, and you had wanted to talk to him because he's just so informative. But the reason why he fascinates me, I mean, we don't get very many earthquakes here, and I'm not a seismologist, and I don't even know the equipment they use, but I found it very interesting because of his animal stories. And I don't know that a lot of people know this, but he has all this equipment, and you got the tides and the moons and stuff like that. But you know what he does? He has an Oscar fish, and most earthquake people, and I'm hearing, Maureen, that a lot of people in California have Oscars, and if you don't have one, you should get one, because before an earthquake, an Oscar kind of swims like upside down. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like an indicator. And then he also, and I find this interesting, he gets newspapers and he looks at the lost and found. And the first thing he's looking for is people writing, oh, I lost my bird. It's a cockatiel. It's a blue prince conure. If you see it, let me know. It's always been a house pet, and for some reason it was going crazy and it fought to get itself out of the house. He looks for that. Okay, and then next he starts looking for dogs and cats missing, and pet bunnies and all the stuff. And if he sees like this whole thing of these animals that are like taking off and leaving, then he starts looking at his equipment and his charts and everything like that. And 9 times out of 10, there's an earthquake.
Yeah, now, that's very true.
That's a dumb animal? I don't think so.
I think some of us are dumb animals. I feel no. That's true about I remember talking to him about that for years because I grew up in California and the earthquakes. It was true. People, but I love the way he would speak. The first thing he does do is check out the things that normal scientific people would not. First thing would be you look in the paper, you see and those animals would be missing, quite many of them at the same time. There's an indication in the environment there's something happening, because I'm sensitive to earthquakes weeks before they happen myself, and I'm an animal too. So you can feel the animals feel it. They run, they go away or do their thing, and you're absolutely right about that. And that fish too. A lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, well, there's also another fish. I don't know if it's a whale. I forgot the name of it, but fishermen, they look for it. And if it swims like on its side, they see a whole school of them swimming on their side. That's usually an indication something bad's going to happen, whether, it's an earthquake, another tsunami. And, I often thought, and I remember reading about this at the time when I had him on the show, that if fishermen are out there and they see this, why aren't they reporting it? I mean, there should be some kind of education going on. I mean, at this point, obviously not all of the equipment is working. We have to go back and look at the animals to show us some of the things that are going on. I mean, when he looks at the lost and found and sees this, they're early indicators. And these particular fish, I mean, you got all these fishing vessels out there, and if they're seeing these whales or whatever they are swimming sideways, a whole bunch of them, tell somebody, radio the Coast Guard, let them know, hey, we're spotting this, have your people check, their instruments and see what's going on. I mean, it makes sense to me.
I think they might be doing it actually right now. I mean, more than we might even know because the earthquakes already hit. And we're going to take a fast commercial. We're going to take a 1-minute commercial, and we'll be right back then from our sponsor at psychicaccess.com.
A new era in psychic services has begun. PsychicAccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at psychicaccess.com.
And we're back, and Mary, we are talking about all things that are great in the sense of the animals. Are we considered animals or reptiles? No, I'm joking. Some people are. So you were saying something about how you got some inside information about some animal for me. Did I hear you say
Yes. That? Earlier I did my thing. I closed my eyes. And all of a sudden, I saw a fox pop up.
A sly fox. Okay, that's okay. I know it's fox.
Well, the fox is perfect for you.
It's great. You're absolutely right.
No, it is. Because a fox, physical or mental responsiveness, increased awareness,
yes,
cunning, you see through deception.
Yeah.
You have the ability to find your way around, and you're swift in tricky situations. Well, I have to argue with that swift business because back in you've got 4 minutes and 3 seconds to, But here's the best part is you're really good with nocturnal activities, and you are a night person.
Yeah, you're right. I'm camouflage. At least I'm glad you didn't say coyote because they're little tricksters. But so the fox is not like that. But you're right. Foxes are like always they're very watchful instead of talking too much, trying to become a tree, but they can camouflage themselves, but they're very alert.
Well, you definitely are nocturnal, and I thought, wow, how perfect.
And also foxes can adapt to the winter and the changing color. You know how I feel about where you are.
Yes, I know.
I want to live in that snow, and I want the seasons, but, and it's like a duty about family and stuff, and so I'm okay with that. Usually it's a bat or for me, but during certain periods of time. But Mary, I wanted to ask you something about cause I met your lovely cats. And what kind of cats are they? By the way, can you tell people because they're really cool. They are something of.
I have 3 Persians and I have 2 Himalayans. Yeah,
there's something else. And do cats always live? It seems like I've been noticing talking to certain people that have cats. I'm going to go on cats right now, but that they live so long. They're living long. Maybe because there's people taking a lot more care. There's insurance for them now, but there's more to do with medical bills for them. Is that perhaps why cats just seem to be living quite a long time?
Well, I think too. You're right there with as far as getting taken care of. Even the food. I mean, did you ever see some of the commercials for the food?
And things have changed now. Through the 60s now. You know what I mean? There's vitamins for your cats and all that too.
Right. I got to tell you, sometimes mine mostly eat dry food, but once in a while I can get one of them. I hate it when I have to give them medication and all they want to do is eat dry food. But Marlo, my latest rescue, he'll get into canned food, and of course, you have to try 45 different kinds before you find the right one that he likes. And I got to tell you, when I open up some of those cans, they smell pretty good.
I know. Well, and they have such, their advertising. It's just like your mouth starts watering when you see them putting a beautiful dish.
I used to laugh. I think it was Fancy Feast in the can. They used to have this white Persian come, and they put the food in this crystal dish. And I'm like, that cat's eating better than me. I got a sandwich on a paper plate tonight.
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that. It's like, what is that? Oh, that's a fabulous lifestyle being served.
But yes, and then too, a lot of townships, cities, they have ordinances as far as having your animals up to date shots, and most people today, they have more than one. Like I said, I got 5. I'm at the extreme, but they have more than one. So, every time I bring a cat into the house, I get all their shots. I get them tested for feline leukemia. Okay. Right. Because that's like a death sentence for the other cats. Everybody can get sick, and, you got situations. So, before you're bringing this cat, like I used to be a breeder. And I used to have all those things tested so that when people would come and they'd be interested in looking at one of the kittens, I had certification from the vets that they had a clean bill of health, they had this, they had that, because, the average person don't run out and get a Heinz 57 anymore variety. I want a Cocker Spaniel. I want a Poodle. I want a Siamese. They want this. So, if you're going to pay the money to get a paper purebred, you want to make sure that it's healthy. And then, of course, you got to keep up with everying right to the groomers.
It's like a high-end car you buy. You have to be able to maintain. Definitely the cost of the investment. Mary, I wanted to ask you something because something just dawned on me. Do you feel, because a lot of people do have more than one animal, at least, or domesticated cat, dogs, or whatever. Some have pigs around and 2 with them. But do you feel that the cats or the dogs or the domesticated animals, if they're not a single child, do they live longer, do you think? Like, people tend to live longer. They've proven if they are with an animal and they're not alone. You know what I mean? Do you feel that the animals also have that going for them? Have you noticed? Because they have, a sense of community with themselves. Do you know? Yeah,
I think it helps. I'm not going to kid you. You have genetics, okay? And if you come home, whether you get a cat, dog, bird, lizard, whatever it is that you buy, it may look good on the outside, but you don't know what its DNA, is made up of, and maybe like 14, grandfathers ago, they had some kind of defective thing, and it shows up down the road. You do run into those cases. But I think I'd have to say that, if they have company, with mine are very snobbish. Like they have 3 of them hang out together, and then 2, and it's like, no, you can't come and sit on this chair because I'm here. But I do believe they enjoy each other's company. They become their own little unit. And I'm not saying mine are fighting. It's just that you can tell the ones that, let's go play with the ball. No, you're not playing with this ball. We have it.
It's almost like that's okay. It's almost like in a way that's the way they're loving each other. In some ways, maybe like children. It's so much like, and there's a lot of responsibility. Ow! I just hit myself when I said, "Ow!" I can't even take care of my own body. Sorry, just hit my knee. I wanted to ask you also, what do you think that we can learn about the animals that we have not yet been open to, that you might find that you can, what you found in your insider knowledge or observing them and everything? Is there something that you could tell us about anything? I mean, it doesn't have to, anything something that might be, well, let's put it this way. Do you notice, I do have to put this, and I've asked you about this, the theory about cats, because, cats were so royalty back, they've never been mentioned in the Bible. There's only dogs, domesticated animals. Why is that? And I kind of feel like, they were kind of brought in from the extraterrestrials. When we started walking a little bit straighter, our jaws, the whole. I'm not saying everybody I'm believing in this stuff, but there was something that switched and changed our bodies, and there's some people that talk about extraterrestrials brought us to cats. Now, you go back into the goddess of kind of bait. What's the name of that cat woman? They, where they honored the cats, but in the Bible, still cats are never listed. They're not mentioned. I find that unusual. They were around, and they were honored.
Absolutely.
So, wonder what do you feel about that? Because have you noticed cats look down at us more so than dogs up, like they're superior.
You know what? I don't really have an answer for that one. I've never really thought about it, but you best believe after the show I'm going to start Googling all about that. And yeah, you're right. They don't mention too much about cats. Although you see over in the tombs and things like that, there's drawings of cats. And they were held highly regarded. And you know what? This thought just popped into my head. Again, I'm not a big reader, although as a kid I had to read the Bible because I went through 12 years of Catholic school. Right. But if you watched the movie The 10 Commandments, where they all, Moses is up on the mountains and he's not coming down with those, stone thingies of the 10 Commandments. So they start to lose faith, and what do? They melt all their gold and they form it in the shape of a cat. And that might be why you don't see the cat mentioned too much, because they actually honored that like a god. So
now that is fascinating, because I was raised cat. I never thought in that perspective of that. But that is really wow. I don't know. I'm having a moment. I know maybe everybody's going yawn, but I don't care. That is very interesting. I'd never crossed my mind in that regard, because it's never mentioned. But you're right. But even way before that time, what was it called? Goddess Bass was her name. I know all the goddesses. They would talk about, they would honor you get the cats out in a burning house. You let the humans stay and die. The cats were the ones. You get those cats out, and that was during the times before BC. And it's like you're right about that. That makes sense. Well, that's really trippy. I'm just learned something very interestingly new.
Hey, that just came out of my mouth, so I'm all excited on that one.
I'm excited. I'm gonna go.
That was my hawk. My hawk was helping me there. Don't look like an idiot. Have an answer.
So, Mary, what about when is it? When do you? Can you what your take is and what you feel where you're standing? When is the right time to say goodbye? Because some people I know, I've gone through it. It's and you're by yourself and no one's supporting it either. It can be very difficult. What do you have to say to people that, when's it time to say goodbye if there's something going on? Like, what can you help us?
Well, that's a tough one, because it's individual. First of all, some people will go as far as they can go financially and even put themselves in debt to try and save their fur kid. Realistically, you have to look at it from their standpoint. Animals, they're used to hiding. I had a cat that was very, very sick, the last one that I lost. Cats, especially, because, they were from the wild, okay? They don't want other animals to know that they're not 100%. So they'll keep going along and along and along till they just can't go along anymore. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, there's something wrong with the cat. There's something wrong with the dog. In my case, I had to put 2 down within the last few years, within 9 months apart. And it was the hardest decision that I ever made. And my vet, who happens to be one of my best friends, said to me, when they become a burden to themselves, you'll know. And my oldest cat, who was 18, I was picking her up and putting her in the litter box, and I was coming and I was finger feeding her baby food. And I looked at her one day and I said, BJ, when you're ready, you let me know. And about 2 days later, I had come into her, and she lifted her head and she looked at me, and for that quick moment of silence, the exchange between the two of us, I knew she was ready. It's just something that you feel.
Yeah, no, that's like a human being. Like that's like something that will happen with somebody that that's older. That it's like if they can't do enough, you can only do so much. Enough is enough. Don't keep doing this. I can't do it much. Like their earth suit body suits or their cat suits run out. Go away. It's their time to leave their suits. I call it earth suit, but.
Right. Then there's incredible stories. I heard the story of a rabbit. And it's so beautiful when you see this big strapping guy, right? And he's so caring about a particular animal. And I love it because mostly the big guys, they have these little itty bitty like toy poodles and chihuahuas and stuff. But this guy was really into rabbits. And he had a rabbit. It was litter trained. Walked it on a leash. I mean, it was his kid. Well, he went and he goes and he gets married. And he's on a honeymoon. And his mom's watching the rabbit. And the rabbit was up in age. Well, the rabbit takes a turn for the worst. And the vet wanted to put the rabbit down. And she says, no, my son will have, if he doesn't, So the thing's like gasping for like 5 days. And it should have died like 4 days before because it was that weak. It held on until he came home from his honeymoon. And when she said, the rabbit was deathly ill, he went and he picked it up. The rabbit looked at him, nuzzled, took his last breath, and died.
That's fascinating you bring that up. And that is just like how the people that will wait for their families. And it's interesting you bring that up. I didn't ever put much thought into that, but my neighbor next door, and I haven't been living in my new place that long, they had a little doggy named Puppy, and I came home from my trip in Utah. I go, how's Puppy doing? I go, oh, he goes, didn't you hear? He goes, oh my gosh, the puppy it was a little dog, got hit by a car out here. It was an accident, but the dog got hit hard. And he goes, we ran out there, we heard it, and the dog literally was able to get up and came to them, and they brought it upstairs, but it was an odd thing. The dog it was a little dog. It should have been dead immediately, but it held on, and they took it to the vet, and the vet goes, this dog, I don't know why it's even living right now. It's internally a mess, but it came back. It's almost like to have a few more moments. They didn't realize, and I go, that's fair. I've never heard of anything like that. Usually, I guess they all depend, but that must have been one heck of a dog. Usually that dog should have died right at impact, and it was small, and I heard it. I was like, oh my gosh. And it's almost like in a way to have another moment. It had another hour or two with them.
Yes. Yeah, but we're talking about dumb animals, right?
Yeah, real dumb. Mary, we got about 5 more minutes, and I want to make sure I get everything in here. And so it's all about me. What I wanted to ask you about, because you're involved with the in rescue. I mean, you're an advocate, right. And also you're an author, and it's also on the guest page here of a great book, by the way, everybody. But I want to get real quick into how'd you get involved with the rescue? Because I think it's so important, because so many people are out there that could use to rescue the dogs too.
I've been involved with rescue long before I knew it was rescue. My 18-year-old cat that I lost a few years ago, I had gotten a phone call from a woman who said, I have these 3 cats and my husband's going to kill them and blah, blah, blah. And I went over and they were 4 weeks old. And I said, can they just stay here for 2 more weeks? And she goes, okay, because I felt a little weird taking a 4-week-old kitten home. About 4 days later, she calls me and she said, you need to come over and get them. My husband ran into the one that I was going to take with a lawn tractor and was threatening to drown the other 2. So I grabbed all 3 of them, found homes for the other 2, had surgery done on the one that I kept, and that was the beginning for me with rescue. But I actually got heavily involved. One of my heart animals that I call her, I was a full-time Persian cat breeder, and I had brought her over to the breeders. And during the course of her stay there, she got out and she got lost. For 5 days she was missing, and the breeder never told me. And I went over there day after day and went looking for her, and I couldn't find her. I thought, oh my God, she's dead. And the one morning I got up and I looked up in the sky and I said, God, I have to find her one way or the other. Either I bring her home in my arms or I carry her out in a plastic bag. But I said, I need to find her. It can't end like this. I went over, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. It wasn't her. It was this piece of pillowcase that was on the floor. And it caused me to go back to that corner of the room where a chest freezer was. And here she was lodged inside the chest freezer in the motor.
Oh, geez.
Her face was 1/4 of an inch away from the condenser. And you know how they tell you on, you see on news, the woman who picked up the Volkswagen because her son was stuck underneath it, and the adrenaline kicks in. I picked up this chest freezer that was full of food and moved it about 4 foot out. I ripped off the side that you should really need a screwdriver to get that panel off, unplugged it. I pulled her out, got her over to the vets. And my promise to God that day was if I found her, I would never breed again and I would get involved in rescue. That's what started
beautiful.
It. Yep.
And that's what you're supposed to. So, because Mary, I'm coming up to the last minute. I wanted to ask you about, first of all, on the guest page, like I said, where there's to find out more about your book, that link. How can anybody go find out if they're looking for, you could help, I'm sure, because there's a lot of animals out there that want to, need a family or a home. What can they do? Can they contact you somewhere?
Sure, if they're looking for a specific animal,
right.
I deal with many rescues. Find me on Facebook. I'm there as Mary Gasparo. If you're interested in the book, you can get it through Amazon.com, and it's called Animals Impacting the World.
Right.
If you have a question about your animal, find me on Facebook.
Yeah, and we do have also under your guest page that book is listed for them to pick. It's a great book, everybody, too, by the way. Mary, I really, there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but, really. Meanwhile. Mary's fantastic. And, Mary, I feel that the animals, it was all part of the big plan for your life and doing what you're doing. And I think it's just lovely. And your cats are strange. No, I'm joking. No, they're not. I just think it's really lovely. And the fact that I see you posting a lot about, look at these animals, they need rescue. So anybody listening, even if they're in not your state, you have contacts, right? Everywhere.
Yes, I do.
See, that's everybody listens. So really, you don't have to even go out. I trust Mary with helping me, no matter what state you're in. I mean, a good state, like a state of mind, no, any state in the country. So, I know America, I guess. But Mary, thank you so much for coming in and joining us tonight. I really appreciate you, as you know, and I adore you, and I think you're just.
Oh.
I think you're the cat's pajamas.
Well, I appreciate you asking me to come on because talking about animals is a passion for me. So thank you.
I love it, and it's lovely, and it's beautiful, and it's caring. So enjoy your evening, Mary, and I will talk to you again someday soon, I'm sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Good night. Good night, Mary. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers. Get access. Psychic access. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.
In other words, when was it more than just a fascination with animals?
Yes.
Well, yes. I have to say, realistically, it probably occurred to me about 15 years ago when I was visiting a pet shop. And I've told this story a few times to some of my friends that I went in to buy aquarium food. We had aquariums, and I ended up walking out with a cockatiel. While I was any animal person, okay, they will go out of their way to go to a pet shop or visit a rescue, whatever, just to go see the cute puppies and the kittens and the bunnies. And of course, I was strolling the store and I was looking at all the fish and the birds. I was trying to stay away from the kittens. And as I was looking at these parakeets, I heard this little, "Look at me." Sounded like a little girl. So I turned around, thinking there was a little girl behind me, and there was nobody. So I go back again, and I hear it again, and I'm thinking, okay, there's something coming through the loudspeakers. And sure enough, they didn't even have any music playing, but I turn around and look, and I'm eye to eye with this beautiful yellow cockatiel. And it occurred to me, she's talking to me. And I'm looking around because I didn't want anybody to notice that I'm kind of like doing this thing with this bird. Needless to say, I did get the...
You notice that when we'll find one in
Yes.
harm's way? Isn't
Yes.
that amazing that's going on right now?
Oh, absolutely. And if you think, I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm glad you brought that up. You look at people and they're standing outside, they're in a restaurant, and what are they doing? And I'm just as guilty as the next guy is. I'm texting on my cell phone. You're listening to your iPad. You have all the, I'm home and I'm watching, cable television, or I'm making juice with my new juicer. Animals don't have this stuff. They don't have all that stuff to get in their way. They just live a natural life. And that's what makes them so special. But getting back to what you were just saying, is I saw an article where they were talking about there was a fire, in the woods, and they found this doe and they found a bobcat kitten snuggling together. They were able to get into somebody's house, and they were snuggling together in a closet.
Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. Really, that's been it's amazing. They're getting, you know what? It's almost like the timing. It's like, I don't know, it's been like a year and a half or 2 years. I've been hearing little bits like that. That's a good example right there. Now, what are the odds? Usually, they're...
The Psychic Viewpoint is proud to have Maureen and Mary Gasparo with us tonight. And with that, I would like to present Maureen Holleran and her guest, Mary Gasparo.
God, I feel like I'm just winning an award. Hi, Mary. Hi,
Hello,
Mary.
Maureen.
Don't you feel so special? I mean, what an intro for both of us.
I know. I'm looking under my feet to see if there's a red carpet that I missed.
I know. It feels so nice. I have a crown on. Mary, thank you for joining us. It's an evening time for you guys, yes. And I am so excited because you're a delight. You're a delight to interview, and I do know you, of course. But I tonight we're going to talk about. Well, you have a profound bond to our animal friends. What would you call it? You called them your fur. What do you call them?
I call them my fur kids.
Fur kids. Do they ever grow up?
No, I treat them like babies all the time. I spoil them.
Well, Mary, can you give a little bit of a background on how you got, or to where you're at right now? I mean, I know that we're talking. People are going to be listening, and everybody has a strong sense to their animals. Sometimes more so than others. Sometimes everybody, or sometimes downright don't like them. I don't know. But when did you know that your bond was like transcended beyond most people?
But as far as communicating with animals, animals they don't have any expectations from you other than to feed them, take care of all their needs, and to love them. And with people, there's so many walls up to try and, have a conversation with somebody. They're always suspecting something, you're up to something. Cats, dogs, whatever animal you're dealing with, they just love you for you. So it's a lot easier to try and communicate with a being that just takes you for face value versus people. Mm.
And it doesn't matter what kind of car you have or how much money you have, as long as you can feed them. That's true.
Oh, exactly. And especially with cats, doesn't matter what time of the day or night when they want their neck scratched. As long as you scratch your neck, they'll love you.
Those are like I'm not saying this to be sarcastic, but the simpler things are the meaningful things that we come into the world without knowing until we're conditioned about things that we want, expect out of a partner or family, whatever. But the animals, it is amazing. It's amazing because even the animals that particularly don't like each other, I've been noticing this I don't watch TV, but like whatever I'm reading on the internet. There's been so many stories, it seems like the past year and a half, about certain animals that normally they would eat each other up alive, that one will find...
Fish food, and I also came home with her. We still have her. My daughter has her. Her name is Daffy, and she's priceless. And I guess from that moment on, once I realized I'm really talking to this bird, other things just started to seem to talk to me, like my cat. I swear I heard my cat say, "Would you get another food? I can't take this." I didn't like this, or "You're late coming home." And, I'm a firm believer, the more you open up, the more you experience.
Yes, why do you feel that the animals can so easily communicate with them? I mean, everybody can, right? Do you feel that, or?
Well, I think if you put yourself in the right place, and once you stop denying it and accepting it and realizing there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, as a child, I look back, and I was always the favorite with whatever dog we had. I grew up with all dogs, and now I have all cats. After we got married, we got our first cat, and then another one came along, and here I am with 5. But I think it's just, you think, well, she just likes animals. But there were many situations that I look back now and thought, if I only knew then what I would know now, I'd be so much more advanced with animals than what I am.